Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this third Casa de Campo real estate webinar. It's a nice picture, the one on the screen right now. Very appealing. Investing in a foreign country generates concern due to insecurity that comes with unknowing the economic situation, the legal framework, the taxation of investments, the stability of the country, and not having trusted legal and real estate advisors who can help you in the selection and materialization of your investments. And another factors that slow down or even paralyze decision-making of is adopted, it is done with great uncertainty. Our goal today is provide you with the information we believe is necessary for you to make smart real estate investment decisions without causing any uncertainty. On the contrary, we want you to make them with the conviction that you are investing in a country with a solid situation and great expectations for development, both economic and social, and advised by an excellent professional which will bring you good returns in the future and capital gains with which you will be satisfied. My name is Jorge Albert Cascos. I'm Spanish, I'm a lawyer, and with deep experience in the financial sector. And I moved to this paradise 6 years ago. I'm Senior Vice President of Casa de Campo Real Estate. This is our team. I'm sure the Dominican Republic needs no introduction. It's a country that already receives more than 10 million tourists a year. But I do want to highlight the beauty of its landscape, its beaches and rivers, the kindness and hospitality of the Dominicans, its Creole cuisine, its music, its dance. It's impossible, and you cannot understand the Dominican Republic without music. Its world-class runs and Havana cigars, coffee, but without forgetting its enormous cultural heritage from Spanish colonization that is reflected in having the second largest colonial city in America and having the first cathedral built in America in 1504. The first hospital also built in America, built in 1503, and the first university built in this continent in 1538. Casa de Campo Real Estate, in which I have the honor of making this presentation, is the only official real estate agency in Casa de Campo. The undisputed leaders in sales and the one with the most professionals and expert team. We operate with the most transparent procedures and in accordance with the strictest ethics. We will talk about Casa de Campo later and about the Casa de Campo market. In this presentation, we are going to cover the following topics in order to fulfill our commitment with you to provide with the necessary information to invest in the Dominican Republic. Aspects such social, political stability, legal certainty, the economic situation and its medium-term prospects, the exchange rate, the legal framework, and taxes are essential to know and are what I want to discuss with you today. Please, if you have any question, I will be happy to answer at the end of my presentation. Let's talk about social political landscape. I call this slide chapter 2 of Luis Abinader. The Dominican Republic is a consolidated democracy and has one of the most stable governments in the Caribbean countries. From 2004 until 2020, El Partido de la Liberación Dominicana of conservative ideology has been in power. In 2020, in August, the current president of the country took office. Luis Abinader is a professional with a very successful trade record and belongs to the Partido Revolucionario Moderno, also conservative, who just won the last elections in May by overwhelming 57.46% of the votes, which undoubtedly represents a majority support for his successful management during the last 4 years. It has been resulted in improvements in transparency, expenditure control, the economy and infrastructure, and the country, among others. During his presidential term, he has carried out a policy of purging the responsibilities of previous governments and fighting against prevailing corruption. In this new term, he will continue to focus on infrastructure, education, the tourist industry, the free zones, and agriculture industry. If we look at most of the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean region, we will find governments with populist and left-wing policies that worry and scare away investors. As a consequence of this, capital flows from Latin America are breaking records. We are going to analyze the main indicators, KPIs of the Dominican economy. When doing so, it's very important to define a context and establish a benchmark against we could compare the performance of the economy. That is why we'll compare the evolution of the Dominican Republic economy with the average of the LAC, Latin American Caribbean countries, due to their geographical and cultural proximity and close commercial relationship. Let's start by the GDP, or gross domestic product. In this slide, you can see the evolution of the GDP from 1989 and in 2023, and the projection for 2029. If you see the graphic, you can check that until 2013, the growth path was lower and it started to be more important after that. In the period 2010-2023, the average growth of the DR has been 5.15% versus 2% in the LAC, Latin American Caribbean countries. During the 5 years before the pandemic, the average GDP growth rate was 6.1%, leading the LLC countries. Those data became from the World Bank. We can see here in this graphic the red line that is Dominican Republic and the blue one who belongs to the average of the LAT countries. Dominican Republic closed 2023 with a growth rate of 3.1%, and the economies of the region 2.6%. Again, it's performing much better than the others in the same region. The forecast for the Dominican Republic economy and the forecast for the LAC region is the one we can see in this screen, is 5.1% for this year, 2023, only 1.6% for the area. That means it's almost 4 times the growth of the Dominican Republic economy. For the 2025, 5%, 2026, 5% again for the Dominican Republic. And for the LAC countries, 2.7% in 2025 and 2.6% in 2026. Again, is doubling the growth, Dominican Republic. The Ministry of Economy make a forecast of GDP growth of 5% until 2028, and an average inflation rate of 4% for the same period. Now we will go and check the GDP per capita and see, you can see here the evolutions of the GDP per capita since 2020 to 2023. In 2023, the GDP per capita reached $1,326.2 per capita. That represents a growth of 50.5% versus 2020. Reaching this number, now Dominican Republic is a middle income economy, and the most important is the 7th largest economy in Latin America. If we consider that this is a small country and we compete with biggest countries as Argentina, as Chile, as Peru, as Venezuela, to be the 7th largest economy in Latin America and Caribbean is a very, very important achievement for the country. Inflation rate. The evolution of inflation in Dominican Republic has performed much better than the LAC countries average. In 2023, the Dominican Republic closed with an average inflation of 4.79, with a reduction of 38.8% versus 2022, which closes with 7.83. So a reduction of 38.8%. It's a big reduction. While according to the International Monetary Fund, in Latin America, the same year amounted 13.8%. We need to consider that this data from LAC countries includes Argentina, Venezuela, and other countries with very extremely high inflation rates. 2024 forecast point an inflation for Dominican Republic of 4.18, and for the LAC countries point to 10.7%. So more than double than the inflation of the Dominican Republic. Other data to be considered when we analyze the economy of the Dominican Republic is unemployment. In 2023, it reaches the historical number of 4.95 million employees, with a growth of 3.7% against the previous year. Let's talk now about the monetary policy, starting by the public debt. The measures adopted to deal with the COVID and the expansive policies to boost the economy over the world is not only a phenomenon of these countries over the world, caused increase in the country public debt that had reached 54,828 billion at the end of 2023, which represents a 45.1% of the GDP. You see in the right side of the screen, this graphic, and we see the line, the orange line that represents the percentage of the GDP, and we see that the highest has been in 2020 because of the pandemic. But again, 45.1% of the GDP is far below than the average of the 60% of the LAC countries. We are seeing in this slide the evolution of the public debt since 2020 until now. The blue lines are the ones for the LAC countries, and the red ones are the ones for Dominican Republic. Again, last year, 60% in the LAC countries and 45.1% in Dominican Republic, performing much better again the economy of the Dominican Republic than the ones in the LAC countries. We need to also consider that public debt in countries with the strongest economies as the US, the public debt in the US reached last year 123% of the GDP, and the average of the European Union 88.6% of the GDP. So again, the numbers of the Dominican Republic are performing quite well. To the closing of 2023, the financial balance of the central administration presented a deficit of 3.3% of the GDP. But this is not a concern number. The numbers of other economies more developed are higher than that. Let's talk now about the evolution of the interest rate. In a global context of resurgence of inflation, the Dominican Central Bank in December 2021 decided to increase the interest rate by 100 basis points to 4.5%. And it's very important as a context that to keep in mind that the interest rate in the country has remained above 5% until 2019. But this until 2026, the interest rate was over 2 digits. So in November 2022, the interest rate reached 8.5%. We see here the highest of the lines on the screen, 8.5%. However, the central bank started to reduce the rates in May 2023, failing in October 2023 to 7%, 150 basis points less than the peak in 2020, remaining at the same level in June of 2012. But it's very important to remark that the interest rate, that is the cost of capital when you make one investment in real estate, affects directly to the market. So we hope that in the coming months, we will start a process of decreasing the interest rate that I'm sure will boost the real estate market. Exchange rate. The average annual spot exchange rate of the Dominican peso against the dollar has stably resisted the financial turbulences derived from the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the Arab-Israeli conflict, and the erratic commodity prices and the deficit in supplies due to the problems in the Gulf. It is important to highlight that all real estate transactions are carried out in US dollar, which avoids currency exchange risk for buyers and sellers. So you will buy or you will invest in a property in this country, you will pay in US dollar, and when you decided to exit of the investment, you will receive the price in US dollar. But again, if we see the slide on the screen, we see that then currently the peso, $1 is 58.88 pesos, and it was in 2020, 56.46. So it's no big change, and it's performing very stable, the currency. So now we will go through the key economic sectors. Tourism is one of the most important sectors in the country and represents over 17% of the GDP. Last year, the tourist revenues has reached the number of 9,571 billion in 2023, with a year-over-year growth of 16.9%. Remittances for immigrants projected to reach 10.4 billion by the end of the year. So again, these remittances are growing steadily. Free trade zones with exports exceeding $8 billion in 2023, and the most important is that equivalent to 67.5% of the total export, 67.5%. In these free zones, there are industry, pharmaceutical industries, textile industries, and others. But I want to emphasize the FDI, foreign direct investments. This is the best indicator of the confidence that foreign investors place in the Dominican Republic. According to the central bank, the country has received 4,392 billion in FDI for new projects in 2023, the highest figure recorded to date. In 2024, FDI is forecast to exceed 4.5 billion. Since then, at the turn of the decade, No Central America or Caribbean country, except Mexico, has attracted as much foreign investment as the Dominican Republic. The main investors are the United States, with approximately 28% of the investment. After that is Mexico, Canada, Spain, especially in the tourist sector. With these BVIs, is very normal that it's a tax-free region, Denmark, Germany, among others. And now let's talk about the tourist industry. We see on the map the main areas, the main tourist areas. We see Punta Cana Bávaro, in which the airport, Punta Cana Airport, receives more than half of the tourists arriving by plane. La Romana Valladolid is one of the very important tourist areas. Samaná Peninsula, Puerto Plata, Santo Domingo, and other new regions that are under development. The tourist boom helps to boost the Dominican economy, especially construction and employment. In the next 3 years, as a very important data, 9,135 new hotel rooms will be built. So it shows you how is growing the tourist industry in the country. Let's now see how many tourists we receive. So we see in the graphic that we achieved the record of 10,300,000 in 2023, but we came from 2,700,000 in 2020. So it's the third country in the world that recovers faster after the pandemic. So from 2,700,000 and to 10,300,000 is close to 8 million growth in 3 years. But this new record of 10,300,000, exceed the previous one of 7,220,000 in 2018. 78% of the people tourists arrive by plane, and close to 21 by cruise. But it's very important to remark that this year we're still beating records. In the first 4 months of the year, January to April, in 2023, we received 3,053,000 tourists. And in the same period this year, we have received 4,178,000. That represents a growth of 36.8%. If we project this number at the year end, we will achieve a new record over 12 million. That is, again, over the objective of 11.5 million. But this country has 11.5 million inhabitants. So we will receive more tourists than Dominicans living in the country. We will go through the tourist industry KPIs. One of the most important ones is the occupancy rate. The break-even point for the sector is in between 55 and 65%. And we saw on the right side of the screen, in the first 4 months of the year, and since November to April this year, all the months has been over the 70%. And the maximum occupancy was in February with 83.7% in the country. But I need to remark the Romana Valladolid, who has an accumulated occupancy rate of 83.8% versus 2023 was 81.5%, and Bávaro Punta Cana reached 83.6%. So those numbers, those occupancy, justify why There are under construction 9,135 new hotel rooms. And it's very important for the real estate business, especially for second residences, the number of people who arrive in the country. That means more hotel rooms, more rentals, and more people buying second residences. Another KPIs indicators of the tourist industry are average expenditure, and in 2023, the figure was 157, and this year first quarter is 167. That means 6.59% up. Average stay is another KPI of the tourist industry, was in 2023 8.47 nights, and first quarter of this year slightly low, 8.35 nights. Country of origin, from where the tourists came. I mean, this is usually still the same precedence. I mean, US represents 40% of the tourists, Canada 18%, so both together, North America 58%, Europe 16%. We need to remark countries as Germany, UK, Spain and France as the main ones, and South America with 15%. Colombia is one of the biggest countries sending tourists to Dominican Republic. And now one of the most important things that must be of the real estate. There are two laws, 1695 of foreign investments and Law 17107 for special incentives to pensioners and rentiers. Rentiers, retirees, and investors are encouraged by granting them facilities to obtain residency, and at the same time, they're granted exemption bonuses on taxes, such as transfer tax, real estate tax, capital gains, etc. We'll go through. So if you buy a property in this country, you need to pay transfer tax. Transfer tax is 3% of the acquisition cost, and is mandatory for the buyer. The buyer is responsible to pay the tax. You need to add to this 3%, approximately 1% of legal expenses that includes notary registers and everything. So you need to think in or estimate 4% as the cost of acquisition when you buy a property. You have a real estate tax is 1% per year, two equal payments, 50% in March, 50% in September, and you pay over the acquisition cost. When you exit the investment, you need to pay the capital gains. It's 25% for individuals and 27% for legal persons. But there's a good point, the inflation adjustment at the lowest. So you adjust every year the acquisition cost with the inflation rate of the year. Property succession rules for non-Dominicans. Dominican law allows foreigners that their national law determines inheritance. Let's make a remark in some tax exemptions. The Comfortable projects is one of the foreign investments incentive that the government provides. Comfortable projects, the government allow that to the projects that really contribute to develop the tourist industry in the country, and represents for the first buyer exemption in transfer tax, so you save 3%, and exemption during 15 years of the EP real estate tax. So you save 3% at buying, and over the years, 15% during in total 15%, 1% per year during the 15 years. Pensioners and rentiers over 65 have exemption of 100% over property real estate tax, EP, and 50% over capital gains. So you don't pay the real estate tax, and you pay only 50% over capital gains at exit of the investment. So let's now summarize what we're talking about the country. There is a claim for the tourist ministry that I like it, I love it. You can be all you want in a place that has it all. Dominican Republic has 365 days of sun, average temperature of 70.6 Fahrenheit, lush nature, 994 miles, sorry, the video, okay, thank you. 6,000 species of flora and 7,000 of fauna, more than 30 golf courses, some of them designed by famous architects like Peter Dye, Jan Nicklaus, Robert Trent. Casa de Campo has one of the more renewed golf course in the world, Tip of the Dog. Hospitality, kindness and joy in the Dominican people. Tasty food, the best runs and cigars. The second largest colonial city in Latin America and Caribbean region. Important growth of the FDI, a sign of confidence in the social economic situation and in the future of the DR. It's very important to remark again the importance of the FDI as a parameter. Real estate transactions are carried out in US dollars and stable. Casa de Campo is the most exclusive luxury resort in the Caribbean. It has an area of 7,000 acres and has more than 50 years of existence. Casa de Campo is located in the south of the Hispaniola island and is very close to the main three airports of the country. It's 45 minutes away from Punta Cana Airport and is less than 1 hour away to the Santo Domingo Airport. Including there is an airport here, 10 minutes far, La Romana Airport, but this is starting to receive international flights. Privacy, security, and higher standards of service are essential to us. We have one 5-star hotel, Casa de Campo Hotel and Resort. The resort has more than 2,200 luxurious private residences. Among the world's 4 golf courses, we have 2 of all of PTI. We also have the most complete range of amenity. We have 13 tennis courses. We have 3 polo fields, 370 moorings, all of them occupied. Sorry. And we have something very special, Altos de Chabón. It's a medieval Mediterranean town, which is amphitheater that could host 5,000 people. Most of the commercial and restaurants are concentrated in Altos de Chabón and in La Marina. We have 14 international restaurants. We have cuisine from Peru, from Italy, from Mexico, and obviously from Spain and Dominican cuisine. Casa de Campo Real Estate is a team of professionals who are willing to advise you to make the best decision when buying or renting a property in this unique resort. We are the only exclusive agency, as I mentioned before, in Casa de Campo. And we are by far leading in sales. In 2022, we surpassed in 286% our immediate competitor. In DR, real estate activities and rentals were one of the fastest growing sectors in 2023, with an increase of 5.4% over the previous year. Casa de Campo real estate market has been demonstrating incredible strength in the last 3 years, with sales prices breaking records and absorption ratios achieved until now. Let's go through the main KPIs of the Casa de Campo real estate market. So we can see here the market of villas, and we could see the average sales price growing by 56%, 2024 versus 2021, 56% average sales price up. And we see also the reduction in days on the market by 22%. It's very important, the reduction in days on the market, because it's more liquid market. In the right of the slide, we can see the price in 2021 was 1,355,000, and in 2024 the data is 2,100,000 and 2,100,000 and something. Anyway, this very important growth, 56%. Let's go through the land lots. In land lots, we saw again the same in the same period, 2024 versus 2021, a growth of the average sales price by 57%. 57%. So the average sales price was in 2021 600,000, and now is 900,000, close to 1 million. And this growth represents 57%. Days on the markets went down by 54%. By price range, we compare last year versus the current year until May, and we see that we sold 2023 up to 1.5 million, 51% of the sales. In this year, 61% of the sales. Up to 2 million, 74% of the sale of villas, and 75% this year. So the sales are concentrating up to $2 million. In lots, we see 2023 up to 1 million, 85% of the sales, and 46% this year. Up to 1.5 million, 74% previous year, and 75% this year. So we can see that in villas, sales are concentrated up to 2 million, and in lots are concentrated in 1.5 million, 75%. What is the market share of Casa de Campo? In villas, 2023, we sold 71% of the deals. This year, up to now, we have a market share of 56%. But in land lots, really, we are the only ones who sell, probably. Most of them, more or less that. 88% of the sales in 2023, and up to now, 2024, we concentrate 92% of the lots sold. And I want you just to check this slide. This slide shows you something very important. We have in the resort 2,225 residences. Okay, villas 1,662, apartments 250, La Marina 144. But the important data in this slide, sorry for that, is that there are 199 villas under construction. That represents 10% of the residences in Casa de Campo. That means that the big increase on landlord sales is transformed in new villas under construction. And it shows you the strength of the Casa de Campo Casa de Campo market. Behind the figures that I showed you, the best guarantee of our professional advice is to ask any of the current owners of Casa de Campo about the profitability of their investments and about all the benefits of being part of this community, which I cordially invite you to join. And now I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Any question? Okay, thank you very much for your time and happy rest of the day. Thank you again.